All right, so Matt, I don't know if you know this, but there is a quantity of artificial butter flavor that beyond that point, people start to believe that it's not butter, and it's known as the margarine of error.
I don't know why that's so funny.
Good.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Graveyard. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Adam.
And my name's Matt.
Now, pull up a tombstone or settle into your casket and get comfortable because this is Graveyard Tales. All right, everybody, here we are again. Matt, how you doing tonight, brother?
I'm doing pretty good, man.
Good. So, I'm noticing, looking at the camera feed, I'm a little dark tonight. I don't know why, but
I know you're dark and I'm like bright. It's like I've got too much light going on here.
We're dealing with it. I mean, if you're watching the video, you just got to deal. Sorry. But before we get into it, we'll say go check out the Podbelly Network at podbelly.com. You can find a list of shows that we're happy to be associated with, and you can find some tips and tricks on podcasting if you're into such things. We don't say it a whole lot, but share the show. Find somebody that you think is going to like Graveyard Tales and share it with them. You know, send them to our YouTube or our podcatcher link or something like that. Maybe somebody you work with so that they can check us out and grow the Graveyard a little bit. Also, go over to patreon.com/graveyardtales. Sign up to become a patron. We've got 3 different levels. All the levels get a bonus episode a week. But if you want to get our second show, Side Quest, sign up to become a $10 patron. And you will get the bonus episode a week. You'll get ad-free audio and video versions of the show. And you'll get the Side Quest second show that we do every week. Mm-hmm. And it drops. Monday is Side Quest, Wednesday is bonus episode, and Friday is your ad-free stuff. So there's always stuff new popping up on there. We've got a back catalog of tons of episodes, and you know, Matt can attest. We don't stick to just one topic in our Patreon.
No.
It's all over the place, and it's stuff that we might not talk about on Graveyard Tales, or it's stuff that we don't have a full episode on. So we're like, okay, well, we can do half-hour bonus episode of this topic, and you get that as one of our bonus episodes. And our side quest is just random BS that we feel like doing. You know, it has nothing to do with Graveyard Tales, and it's just, if you like hearing Matt and I talk and try to make the other one laugh or grossed out or something, then you'll like that show.
Yep, absolutely. So go check it out.
So on that note, Matt, why don't you tell us, what are we talking about tonight, brother?
All right. So tonight we're talking about a place. We're heading out to Colorado. And this is another one of these places that gets the most haunted in Colorado, or one of the most haunted. There's a lot of personal stories from this place, which I love. You know, yeah. I'd much rather hear people's telling me their story about what they've experienced.
And man, I didn't tell you this before when we were doing the research. The Friday that this drops, the next day is when we're heading out to Colorado.
Uh-oh.
So we will be in Colorado while people are listening to this episode.
But you're not going to Denver, though, are you?
Nah, we're going outside Pikes Peak.
Okay. So everybody knows now Adam's going to be outside Pikes Peak.
Yep.
You're going to head there and try to find him.
Yep.
And
Stalk me.
You win the graveyard prize.
Yeah, if you find me, I'll give you stickers. If you see me out somewhere and find me, I will give you stickers.
He's always carrying a big bag of stickers. You can't miss him.
Yep, I got a big bag of stickers and a big bag of other stuff. Just hopefully I give you the sticker bag.
Hey, everybody's like, what the hell are y'all talking about? We're talking about Cheeseman Park in Denver, Colorado.
Yep.
Okay. And the crazy thing about Cheeseman Park is it wasn't always a park.
That's right.
So it's got not just a dark history, it's got kind of a shady history as well.
Yeah, that's true.
And the shady history seems to contribute quite a bit to what people experience that live around this park and visit it routinely. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot going on right there. And because people are in the park, they live right there, beside the park, or they work right there. There are just, you can't even count all the stories that people have posted and talked about that they've seen something, felt something. There's a couple in here I'm going to talk about tonight that I do not believe we have had anything like up to this point. In the years we've done this, I have not read a story of an experience quite like this one you're going to hear tonight. So anyway, but like I said, the history is a little strange. So Adam's going to hit us with the history of Cheeseman Park.
All right. And as we always say, go check our sources down at the bottom of the show notes. You can find where we found all the information, and you can keep going if you are like, well, I didn't get enough from Graveyard Tales, so I want to keep going. Check our sources down at the bottom of the show notes. And, it's from people that have had firsthand experiences there. Since Matt and I have not been out to Cheeseman, we have to take it on what other people have experienced. But before we get into Cheeseman Park, we need to look at Denver real quick. Now, Denver was founded in 1858, and it was during the Pikes Peak Gold Rush. So the area was inhabited by the Apaches, the Utes, the Cheyennes, the Comanches, and the Arapahoes. And Arapaho, we have a road here in Texas, Arapaho, and I always think of reading historical books of the Arapaho Indians.
Right.
When I drive down that road, I guess it keeps it fresh in my mind. But
yeah, that's true. I thought you were going to go somewhere else.
Well, I'm trying to keep it PG. Because there were a lot of non-PG jokes that were made in high school about that.
Uh-huh.
Now, originally, Denver was two rival towns. It wasn't always just one town. It was Auraria and St. Charles.
Yeah.
And they sat on opposite sides of Cherry Creek originally.
And they hated one another.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
They were rivals.
Just threw that in there. I don't know that they did that.
Well, I mean, I'm sure some people hated the other ones. And then you mush two cities that hate each other together, and you get Denver.
Yeah, right.
Now, William Larimer Jr. renamed St. Charles to Denver City in November of 1858 after James W. Denver, the governor of Kansas Territory. So then the two towns merged in 1860. And the following year, 1861, Colorado Territory was established with Denver as its capital. So during the early years of Denver, there were some big events that happened that challenged the growth as a city. First off, on April 19th, 1863, there was a devastating fire that ripped through the city, and it destroyed most of the wooden buildings there, and it resulted in $250,000 in damages.
Dang.
So
in 1863.
In 1863. But, we've said before that the 1800s, if your town didn't get destroyed by fire, you were the oddity.
This is true. Yeah.
Because fire just had a heyday with all these wooden buildings and bustling, growing downtowns.
Yeah.
Somebody was bound to do something stupid in their house and then catch the whole town on fire.
Well, I mean, when you consider the fact that you were living in these wooden houses, you did business in these wooden buildings, and the only way to keep warm was using fire.
Yeah.
So, you had to if you didn't use fire, you just got cold.
Mm-hmm.
So there
And
was
this is
always
Denver.
that chance.
You need to stay warm.
There was always that chance. There was that risk. You had to cook with it. You had to heat your home with it.
Yep.
That something was going to fall out of the fireplace. A spark was going to hit something dry, and just your house was a tinderbox.
Mm-hmm.
Your business, your hotel, your whatever. It was just ripe for fire to just wipe it out.
Yep. And this disaster, this fire that ripped through the town, it actually led to laws that prohibited the use of flammable materials in downtown construction. So they said, after this, we got to limit in our downtown what materials we use.
Yeah. So everything was made of like stone, I guess.
Yeah, and concrete and
concrete,
stuff.
brick,
Yep.
whatever they could put together, that wasn't wood.
Mm-hmm. Well, then in May 19th of 1864, so about a year later, just when they had rebuilt, about a year later, the heavy rains and spring snowmelt destroyed the low-lying Aurora area, and the flooding that ensued killed 8 Denver residents. A lot of livestock were drowned, and it cost $350,000 in damages. So I want to know what laws they enacted that would curb the flooding.
Right. Oh man, I mean, you just it's one of those, you can't win for losing.
Mm-hmm. Well, and to this day, because of the May 19th, 1864 flood in Denver, it's illegal to have a flood. No, I don't know. I just
Flooding is illegal.
Flooding is illegal in Denver, thanks to this one event. Yeah. Now, the city experienced a mining slump in the mid-1860s as the easily extracted placer gold was exhausted, and so that caused a lot of the miners to leave. And since they were a town built on the Pikes Peak gold rush, that kind of ruined their town a little bit. And then in 1866, the Union Pacific Railroad said that they would bypass Denver, so it threatened the city's future as a regional center as well.
Yeah.
So people were leaving, and it was kind of dropping. But now we need to look at Cheeseman Park. So Cheeseman Park sits east of Capitol Hill in Denver, Colorado, and it's an 80-acre park with this big grassy lawn in the center of it. And you'll find out what the big grassy lawn was used for here in a second. Now, I don't know how many people know about this, even if you live in Denver, but Cheeseman Park and the Denver Botanical Gardens next to it were built on land that used to be a cemetery.
Yeah. A big cemetery.
A big cemetery, yeah. Excuse me, my nose is itching like crazy.
Yeah, it's last week I had a mustache hair.
Yep, last week it was you, this week it's me. The 160-acre area on which the park and the garden sits was once Mount Prospect Cemetery. And it first opened in 1858. Well, then in 1865, 40 acres of that cemetery became Mount Calvary, which was a specific burial place for Catholics. Mm-hmm. So they had this big area, and then 40 acres of it was set aside just for people of the Catholic faith. Well, a few years later, in 1872, Congress said that the site of Mount Prospect Cemetery actually was federal land. So they came in and go, this nice cemetery you got here, that's actually ours. You're on our land.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, but I know we didn't tell you before you built it, but now that you have built a nice cemetery, that's ours. Mm-hmm. So the land that the cemetery was on was then sold to the city of Denver. So at least they bought it.
But imagine that somebody just walks up to your house one day and says, "Oh, your yard it's mine.
Yeah, right.
I'll sell it to you for a good price.
Mhm.
You're like, wait a minute, I've been living here already.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, I know, but it's mine.
But it's mine.
And I need you to buy it from me. You're like, what? I got to pay you for this that I've already got?
Yeah. Well, they said when the city of Denver bought the land, they had the stipulation that this always has to serve as a cemetery.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Well, with the sale in 1873 came a name change. They changed the name to Denver City Cemetery. So, okay, still a cemetery, name change, still the same thing. Well, like I said, Mount Prospect opened in 1858, but the first burial there wasn't until 1859. Then, in the following years, the cemetery started being sectioned off for different religious groups. So, like, they made an area for the Society of Masons, an area for Jewish people, an area for Roman Catholics, and they had a bunch more groups that bought little sections. Well, these groups were then made responsible for maintaining their own burial plots.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't privately owned anymore, and it's a state-owned cemetery, so they're like, no, we're not taking care of that. That's on you. You can have the burial plots, but you got to take care of them. The state's not.
Yeah,
So.
and you said something. I've got a question. So it was opened in 1858, but the first person wasn't buried there until 1859.
Mm-hmm.
So is it really a cemetery if nobody's buried there?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Is it a cemetery in waiting, maybe?
Yeah, so it was just some land,
Mm-hmm.
and then nobody was buried there, but they said, no, this is a cemetery.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a
how many
cemetery.
people are buried here? Well, none yet.
Yeah, no, we
Well,
got
then
a waiting
it's
list.
just a field right now, then.
Yeah, right. You got a big field with an interesting moniker.
But I can understand where if they were like, okay, if you're gonna get this section to bury whatever people for whatever background they have
Mm-hmm.
in this part, okay, whether they're going to be Masons or whether they're going to be Catholics or whatever, then you're going to have to take care of it.
Sure. Yeah.
You're going to have to come in here. You're going to have to mow the grass. You're going to have to, I'm sure you're going to have to dig the graves
Oh, yeah.
and mount the headstones and do
Or at
all of that
least-
too.
Or at least pay to have the graves dug.
Sure. Yeah.
You either do it yourself or pay for it.
Yeah. So, now you've gone from this was federal land to, okay, now the city has to buy it. So now the city is essentially subletting it out to different groups to use as a cemetery, and they're going to charge them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is how the price keeps going up to get buried in
Yeah,
Denver.
exactly.
Pretty
Exactly.
soon, you can't even afford to die in Denver. You got to go somewhere else.
Right. How it went from free in your own family yard
Right.
to thousands of, tens of thousands of dollars. We used to have a joke on that note at my old job that we were too broke to live but too poor to die.
Yeah.
So we didn't know what we were going to do.
Uh-huh.
Because it's like, I can't pay my bills, but I also can't pay for a funeral. So what the hell am I going to do?
Yeah.
I can't pay to be buried, let alone a funeral.
I've thought that too, and I've just kind of resolved myself to the fact of, well, if it's my funeral, it's not my problem anymore.
Amen. At
Which,
that point, it's your
people
kids.
are like, it sucks. You're gonna hang your family with that. I'm like, well, it's not like I'm meaning to.
Yeah, right.
It's just kind of the way it is.
I've told them that at this point, put me in my truck and run me off into the lake. And then it's free burial and you can claim insurance on that truck.
That's right.
So
I had a professor in college that he said he would tell his wife, now when I die, you go and you ask for the cheapest casket they've got, and when they roll it out there, go, okay, now give me the box that this one came in.
yes, yep. Now I want cardboard plate, and I mean, I think some places are actually going to where you can be buried in biodegradable cardboard like that.
Yeah.
Which I honestly think we need to do. This whole movement of formaldehyding a body and so it looks the same for 200 years. I don't need all that.
Yeah,
nobody's I don't need a waterproof. Yeah, I don't need a waterproof casket. I mean, let me from whence I came. You know what I mean? Just let me dig a hole and wrap me in a sheet and throw me in there.
I think you ought to just rent caskets.
Yeah.
Hey, we can rent you this nice one right here. It's nice mahogany. You know, we'll put this color inside it for you. Mm-hmm. You know, lay him out. Then once the service is over,
yeah,
I don't need it no more.
Right, cardboard box at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or for me, just take that casket on a backhoe and then just tip me out of it into the hole.
Like a burial at sea. You know,
exactly.
You just slide off into it.
Mm-hmm. And I'm fine with a burial at sea, too, if you want to do a Viking funeral for me. But Ashley said, no, you're being cremated. And I said, can I be stuffed and set in the living room? And she's not up for that. I'm going to wear her down, though. Have me taxidermied.
That's right.
Like holding my guitar in the corner of the living room.
That's right.
That's how I want to be remembered. Well, let's get back to Cheeseman, because we digressed quite a ways. Well, over the next couple of decades, you know, we've got the people responsible for their own plots and everything. Well, over the next couple of decades, the cemetery started to fall into a state of disrepair. So only a few of the sections of the cemetery were actually taken care of adequately and where they didn't look too bad. The rest of them, people were like, I don't want to do this. So it just kind of overgrew, or they're like, hey, that's not my job. That's your job. No, that's not my job. That's not my job. I'm not cleaning that. And
right. Yeah.
Just the buck got passed and nobody cleaned it. Well, by the late 1880s, the cemetery was rarely used, and it wasn't even nice to look at. It wasn't like one of those old cemeteries that nobody's buried there anymore, but you like going and looking at it because the architecture's cool and all. It didn't even have that. Well, then the city of Denver started to plead with Congress to change the status of the land from cemetery to parkland. Because you remember, in the beginning, they said it always has to be a cemetery. Mm-hmm. So they had to get congressional orders to change that designation. And on January 25th of 1890, Congress acquiesced to their demands. So the Denver City Cemetery became Congress Park. They said, we'll make it a park, but we're calling it Congress.
Right, yeah. We get to name it.
Yeah, right. You can have it as a park, but it's going to be Congress Park because Congress did it.
Yeah, right.
So, well, in 1893, they began the process of moving 5,000 graves. Well, the process was under the supervision of a man named E.P. McGovern, but he was dismissed before all the graves could be located.
Yeah, you'll love why.
Mm-hmm.
So this comes from the book, A Short History of Denver. And this says Undertaker Edward P. McGovern was offered $1.90 for each box of remains he dug up. So he saw an opportunity to quadruple his money. Now, I love how this is worded. He subdivided corpses into as many as 4 boxes. Subdivided them. Yeah.
Yeah.
He chopped up bodies.
He hacked them
up. And put
up.
them in multiple coffins. Even used children's coffins.
Oh, my God.
Because they were smaller. Yeah. And he could just cram a few body parts in there. And then, instead of getting $1.90, you know, he was getting almost $8, like $7.50.
Yeah.
You know, for one, which so he was quadrupling his money.
Okay, Matt. So, have you been visiting takeout apps more than the gym lately?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I can't judge anybody because I have too. But the thing is, you've heard me talk about it before, and I've talked about it before because it's 100% the truth. Ashley and I are trying to eat better and get healthier. But when you do that, the healthy food is so expensive.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
But you've got an option here with our sponsor tonight, EveryPlate. Now, EveryPlate, you can get great food that's good for you at an affordable price that's cheaper than going to the grocery store and trying to buy the healthy food there.
Yeah, exactly. And, if you want to eat healthy, you want to eat less expensive, and you want to eat convenient, delicious food, then EveryPlate is the right move for you. EveryPlate can help you dish up better habits with delicious, easy recipes delivered right to your door. And they even have calorie smart, carb smart, and protein smart options for, everybody that's looking to shed a few pounds this year. And with the new Smart Swap recipes, you can swap flour tortillas for lettuce wraps, white rice for lettuce, and potatoes for sweet potatoes, so that you can make better for you meals.
It's great having that swap option.
Oh, yeah. So skip the store and enjoy wholesome homemade meals that cost less than groceries. Start with 50% off your first box with code GRAVEYARD50. That's GRAVEYARD50 at everyplate.com/podcast.
That's right. Start with 50% off your first box. Just use our code GRAVEYARD50, GRAVEYARD50 at everyplate.com/podcast. EveryPlate offer valid with auto-renewing subscription. That's entrepreneurial spirit, but in a very bad way.
Yeah. But what's funny is in this book, A Short History of Denver, it says that onlookers reported McGovern's tactics and he was dismissed. So it's not even really like he's hiding this. Onlookers, that just makes me think that people could just walk by and here's this old guy chopping up bodies in the cemetery.
He's just out in the middle of the walking path.
Yeah. Breaking
these things into quarters and putting them in smaller boxes.
Yeah. So
this McGovern guy is nuts.
Yeah. So they dismissed him, but they just said, okay, you're fired. And he just left. So it let graves and bones all over the place.
Which is crazy.
So now it looked like this really poorly planned resurrection is what the book says. It says one grave was even left with the casket lid shattered and a partly decomposed gentleman was in there staring out of it for 2 weeks.
God.
Instead of hiring someone else to finish the job and do it properly, the city just pulled up the remaining headstones.
Yeah.
Okay, they were like, okay, just move the headstones. We'll leave the bodies there. So it's estimated that there are around 3,000 bodies that were left buried under Cheeseman Park.
Which is wild.
Oh, yeah. That is totally insane. Now, if you remember back a few weeks ago when we were talking about Lake Lanier, and there were bodies there that they just didn't know were there, or they didn't know where they were. In this case, they not only knew there were bodies there, they knew where they were because they dug up the headstones.
Yeah, right.
And they were just like, just went on with it.
Can you imagine? Just picture, it's 2025. You're out in Cheeseman Park playing Frisbee with your boy or whatever, and he trips running after the Frisbee. You go over there, and there's a hand that has come up out of the ground because erosion took place, and now there's a corpse hand sticking out of the... Everybody would flip.
Yeah.
I mean, geez.
Yeah. And even the Denver Botanical Gardens, it's on part of the land that used to serve as the Catholic portion of the cemetery. So even the Botanical Gardens are still on part of this cemetery. I mean, like we told you, it's a big cemetery.
Yeah, it was.
3,000 bodies were left. So, I mean, it's good size. So the Congress Park and the Botanical Gardens all sit on areas that served as the cemetery.
Right. Now, they got a contractor in 1890 to begin construction on the park. Well, Denver Mayor Robert W. Speer, who was a proponent of the City Beautiful movement of the early 1900s, looked to beautify Congress Park, but claimed the city did not have the funds to do so. So he encouraged benefactors to donate, but he didn't really have any success. So it was a little while before anything could be done. Well, he finally had some success with the widow and the children of Walter Scott Cheeseman, who died in 1907. They came forward with $100,000 for a park pavilion. Hence, the park became known as Cheeseman Park in honor of that donation.
Yeah.
Now,
you donate that money, you get to name it.
Right. Shoot, you give me $100,000, I'll name my left arm after you. This will be my Matt arm. It's not my left arm anymore.
Change my name. I will get a tattoo.
Yep.
Of a memorial to you.
Left arm, property of, and then your name on it. And when I die, you can have my left arm with all the ink and my Johnny Cash tattoo on it and everything.
Adam's going to look like he's wearing like a NASCAR uniform or something.
I'm fine with that.
Like one of those dudes in the fishing tournament, he's got like 400 sponsors on his shirt. He's just tattooed up,
Yeah. My right nipple was brought to you by M&M's. So. M&M's donated $300 for this nip. So the area there was leveled. There was grass planted, and plans for the Cheeseman Memorial Pavilion that they donated money for were drawn up. Then in 1950, the city of Denver successfully persuaded the Catholic Archdiocese of Denver to deed the Mount Calvary land back to the city. So up to this point, they didn't have Mount Calvary. It was still under the Catholic Archdiocese. Well, they got them to donate it back to the city of Denver. And while a city botanic garden was originally planned for construction in City Park, it was relocated on the Mount Calvary site. So the Denver Botanic Garden was then dedicated in 1966. And if you think at any point that there isn't, like Matt was saying, bodies under the Botanic Garden there, you crazy.
Right.
Well, the pavilion that $100,000 was donated to have built, and the pavilion became a popular community gathering place. So even to this day, it hosts Broadway musicals and other open-air performances in the warmer months. Because it's Denver, and you don't do crap in the winter.
You ski in the winter, I guess.
Yeah. You ski and you freeze in the winter.
Yeah. Spoken from Southern boys.
Amen. Dude, it's cold here, right? It's like, I went outside and I texted Ashley while she was at work. I said, this wind is brutal. It's destroying my Southern boy soul. Because it was so cold, the wind would blow and it'd take your breath away.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to do when we're outside Pikes Peak there. I've been to Pikes Peak before as a kid, but that was so long ago, I can't remember the horrors of the cold. So I don't know if I'm going to die. I may come back missing a nose. I mean, I don't know how cold you Denverites and stuff get, but it's cold.
Look, we had some friends that moved up to Denver, and we met up with them after they'd been up there probably about 6-8 months, and one of them's telling a story, and it started. The story had nothing to do with this. It was all something that freaked her out. And I said, you know what the scariest part of the story is? That you said it was October and it was snowing.
Mm-hmm.
I said, that's terrifying to me.
Yes. Well, Ashley was telling me
we could go swimming in October here.
Yeah, no kidding. We're sweating in our Halloween outfits because you have long sleeves in your Halloween outfit and you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Ashley has a coworker, an ex-coworker that moved to Colorado, and she said on Facebook that they've had 40 inches of snow already this winter. And I said, 40 inches? I didn't know that much snow fell. Like,
yeah, right.
When we get snow here, we get an inch. Mm-hmm. I mean, the most we've gotten was a few years ago, we got like 8. And I thought the city was going to collapse under the 8 inches of snow, but
yeah, we got a couple inches last night. Everything's shut down.
Yeah.
But with all these bodies still underneath this park, you know, the old saying, you know, hey, you want a haunted park? This is how you get a haunted park.
Right.
Okay. So, you know, not only that, but you had this muck up of digging up these bodies for relocation, you know, by old Mr. McGovern. And, you know, that's going to disturb any spirits that were around there at the time.
For sure.
So you've had some activity there that would lead you to believe we might have some unhappy spirits roaming around inside this park.
Yep.
But it started almost immediately when the bodies began to be removed in 1893. People started reporting weird things happening.
I believe it.
Yeah, one of the first reports was a gravedigger named Jim Astor. He felt a ghost hand upon his shoulder. Astor, who had been looting the graves as he moved the bodies.
That's what he gets.
He immediately ran from the graveyard and didn't come back to work the next day. Because that's what you do. But again, here's a guy who is misbehaving in the cemetery, and the ghost comes up and says,
hey, buddy.
Hey, man. Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. Why? And I know it's not a rare occurrence back in the day to have people that would loot graves and do that stuff. But why on this one project did you have not only the foreman hacking up bodies into quarters,
right,
but then you had another worker that was looting the graves. And I guarantee he wasn't the only one looting. But why did you have so many on this one project that were treating the dead poorly?
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, you want a haunted park? Let's start disrespecting the dead just on moving them.
And I guess in some weird, twisted way, I can kind of think maybe like how they thought, oh, well, this person's dead. They don't need this necklace or this ring anymore. The family wasn't coming around to see them in the body, so they won't know whether it's there or not. Why don't I take it and do something with it? You know, but the whole concept of somebody being buried with valuables had been around for thousands of years.
Yep.
But so has grave robbing.
Yeah, true.
I mean, again, same thought, you know. Yeah. And you think a lot of those Egyptian tombs were raided, you know, because there were so many riches that were buried with some of these people and some of these aristocrats and rulers. That's
what I was going to say. Is that's why we don't know a lot about a lot of these Egyptian rulers, is because the tombs were looted.
Right. And the thing is at that time, they were like, it wasn't, oh, well, they don't need this. They're dead. At least in Egyptian history, they believed, yeah, they need this stuff. That's why we're putting it in here. And you're taking it.
Right.
You know?
They're just taking it because they're like, I need more money.
So, the bottom line is don't rob graves. That's bad.
Another Graveyard Tales PSA.
Right,
If you learn anything from Graveyard Tales, let it be to not go grave robbing.
That's right. Don't rob graves. Adam, I like to keep my money where I can see it, especially nowadays.
Right.
We spend so much everywhere we go. Everything's more expensive. Why in the world would you want to pay more for your wireless phone service?
Right.
I mean, come on, especially for folks like me. I've got, all these kids running around and every
172 now?
That's right. It's like quadrupled since last week.
Right, see?
I'm like, I don't even know this one, and they've all got to have a smartphone. And, I finally got them to back off the latest smartphone and just buy okay, let's get one that's a little bit, 2 years older, it's the same phone, but it's a lot cheaper.
Right.
Listen, if you want to get the latest smartphone, and if you want to get cheaper wireless service, just like I did, then you need Mint Mobile. You've got to check them out, and they make this process so convenient. I mean, it is so easy to switch, and you go online, you can bring your phone, you can buy a new phone from them, and you can set up your plan. And it is that simple.
Right. And how many carriers can you bring your own phone?
Yeah, right. And it's just, they always want to loop you in to getting their phone on their service that's locked in. You don't have to worry about that with Mint Mobile.
Right. Like Matt was saying, you can say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plan's jaw-dropping monthly bills and unexpected overages. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you with premium wireless plans that start at just $15 a month. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You, like Matt said, can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with your existing contacts. Yeah. So you don't have to, I got to get a new phone. I got to give everybody my new number now.
New phone, who dis?
Exactly. You don't have to do that. You can bring your phone number to Mint Mobile. Ditch overpriced wireless and get 3 months of premium wireless service from Mint Mobile for $15 a month. Now, if you like your money, Mint Mobile is for you. Shop plans at mintmobile.com/grave, GRAVE.
Yeah, that's mintmobile.com/grave. Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month 5GB plan required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customer offer for first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. But the people that lived in the houses around the graveyard started to report these sad and confused looking spirits knocking on their doors and windows.
What?
Yeah. Knocking on their doors and windows.
Can you
yeah.
No. No.
Yeah, I'm usually the one that says it. You said it. Could you imagine?
Yeah. I mean,
yeah. Doom, 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 doom. Open up the door, and it's this weird ghost like, do you know where I'm supposed to be?
Having a nice, peaceful dinner with your family, and you go to answer the door thinking it's your neighbor, and it's a ghost standing there going, I don't know why I'm here.
Yeah.
What am I doing here?
And these were reports, okay? They wasn't like a report.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this happened quite often, according to the documents.
Right.
As well as people would report hearing the sounds of moaning coming out of the graves that were still open.
Yeah.
So, here they are. They're working on. You're not going to move thousands of people in a day.
Right.
It's going to take a while. So at some point, the workers stop and go home. Well, there's open graves left out there that they're going to come back and loot and rob the next day.
Right. Right.
But anyway, no. So you live around there and you're walking by and you're like, yeah, that's an open grave. That's kind of creepy. And then you're hearing moaning and stuff coming from this open grave. All
of a sudden you hear, I'm cold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Talk about lowering the property value.
No joke.
Hey, this house is great. It's a great deal. You might get a visitor, at night. Just tell them to go back to the graveyard.
There's open graves right across the street, but don't worry about it. They're harmless.
You met your kids are over there playing and they fall in a grave? Oh, my God.
No.
Now, they say that bones are still regularly found, both at Cheeseman Park and the Denver Botanic Garden.
See? I told you, kid playing Frisbee.
Yeah. So they're out there doing a construction project, I'm talking about modern day,
mm-hmm.
and they'll dig up human remains because they're still there. And there was a story about they dug up some human remains during a project, and somebody stole a skull. The skull was apparently the first thing that was actually unearthed during this thing, and somebody just took it.
Jeez. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
look, if you take some jewelry, I can at least understand why you would have taken that. Why would you take a human skull?
Right. And this is coming from a guy who looked behind me, and there's skulls galore, but those are all animals.
Yeah.
I have replica human skulls, but I am not going to get a real human skull and put it behind me just to have one.
We've talked about this on the show before. You can purchase a real human skull.
Yep.
But guess what? That individual, they had it written out. They had it in their will.
Mm-hmm.
I want my body to be donated. Okay? So they donated their body for science, research, whatever.
So they knew people would be fiddling with their bones after they were dead.
Exactly. This person didn't sign up for this.
Right.
Not to have their damn skull stolen.
Yep.
So guess what? That caused a big stir with
I'm
the
sure.
spirits. The most recent one was in 2010. Okay. They were doing irrigation work at the park when workers uncovered 4 skeletons near that pavilion. 4 skeletons. Now, due to the creepy past that it's got, like I said at the beginning of the show, it's commonly recognized as one of the most haunted places in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And ghostly encounters are reported in the park and at several of the houses that surround it. In fact, I didn't know this. You may not have known this when we started. The horror film The Changeling was inspired by paranormal activity that the writer experienced while living in a mansion at Cheeseman Park.
No, I had no idea.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not like the movie wasn't set there or anything. The writer of the screenplay experienced some crazy stuff while he was living next to Cheeseman Park, and it inspired him to write the screenplay for The Changeling.
Well, wonder if he's got to pay royalties to that spirit.
Yeah, absolutely.
And finder's fee, something. Inspiration.
Look, they still had their SAG card. So
I was going to say, yeah, if they're a SAG member, then.
But it's been said that the spirits of those who were hacked up to fit in the other coffins still haunt that park.
I would too.
I would. And it says maybe this is due to anger.
What? Yeah.
Okay.
Duh.
I buy that.
Yeah.
A lot of people have heard phantom noises of wailing or screaming out at night, and have often seen shadowy figures moving around in the park, where in the areas where the cemetery was.
Some of those people may still be trying to put themselves back together.
Yeah.
Like,
that's
who
right.
knows? Who knows if all the parts got put back in the... I guarantee they didn't. If this guy was moving them in fours and then just left...
Yeah.
There's no way they all got put back right.
No, there's no way. It's like, I got a coffin with 6 feet in it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I know we had 3-foot Larry, but I didn't know he had a twin.
Yeah, exactly. You're like 6 feet. Yeah, that's about the size. No, feet.
Yeah,
as in like 6 foots.
Actually, yeah, 6 foots is. There's these is in theirs is.
Now, a lot of visitors to the park, or even just those passing through at night, have recalled seeing the shadowy figures of children playing in the park before they vanish at sunrise.
No, don't like it.
Yeah, you don't like it.
Don't
I know
like
you
it.
don't like it.
Mm-mm.
There's even reports of a woman that's said to have been seen singing to herself right before she suddenly vanishes.
Where, oh, where has my left leg gone?
Yeah, so if somebody
in
steals your
another
skull,
box.
if somebody steals your skull, does your ghost miss their head?
That's a good question.
How that works?
That's a good. I mean, if movies have taught us anything, they come back on a horse.
That's right.
With a pumpkin as a head.
That's right.
So.
But it is said. This says it's a rumor. I read this in several spots, that on well-lit nights, so on a full moon, of course, that you can still see the outlines of the graves. Where the ground is kind of settled.
Yeah.
You can look and just kind of see that silhouette of that's a grave, that's a grave.
See, that'd be weird.
Grave.
If that's true, that would be weird.
And some people say that they, after lying down on the grass in the park, they have found it difficult to get up, as if unseen forces are keeping them down.
Well, this is Denver. They did legalize some stuff years ago that I think would make it hard for you to get up.
That's right.
Just saying. I mean, there might be other reasons.
I can't get up, man.
Yeah. Man, I laid down here, man. It feels like a grave down here. I can't get up.
Oh, my God. That's great. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe it's not haunted at all.
It's probably not. Yeah. It's just.
But if you ask Lee Cook, he would probably disagree with you. Lee Cook lived in an apartment and worked in the supermarket near Cheeseman Park. And in 2005, he submitted this story to legendsofamerica.com. It says, I live and work only blocks from the infamous Cheeseman Park in Denver, Colorado. I've heard stories of its haunted nature, but never thought much of it until lately. One night, my friend Ruben and I decided to take a walk through the park. We walked across the south lawn to the pavilion where several skateboarders were jumping on the sides of the old fountain and other people were walking about. We talked about work and other mundane things as we strolled away from the old pavilion to the rose gardens, where there is a natural maze of huge rose bushes. I heard a rattling chain behind us and said, Ruben, can you hear that? As I looked around, he replied that he hadn't heard anything. He said, there, I heard it again. And I heard the chain jingling. Still, he didn't hear it, and we couldn't see anyone. Continuing our stroll, we moved toward the middle of the big field, which was more open, and sat down in the cool grass to smoke a cigarette. Cigarette, right. Moments later...
One of them left-handed cigarettes.
Left-handed cigarette. Man, I hadn't heard that in years.
You're welcome.
Moments later, we were surprised to see a kid riding a bicycle with a chain dangling from his pocket. He was turning circles around a thin, pale man dressed in what appeared to be a shredded hospital gown covered in blood.
Ugh.
The pair moved toward us, and to say the least, we were petrified.
Yeah.
As they grew closer, I saw that the pale man's jaw was broken. He then approached us and asked for a smoke. As I handed him a cigarette, he said, "Did you see them?" Says, dumbfounded, I replied, "Who?" "The ones who did this to me. They stabbed me 15 times, the man said. He then lifted his sleeve to show us what looked like very deep stab wounds in his arms, back, and chest. Horrified, I said, "Shouldn't you be in the hospital?" He shook his head and said, "They let me go because I had no money." He then warned us to watch out for them and repeatedly stated, "I'm going to get them."
Oh,
When I reassured him that we would let him know if we saw them, the pair casually moved away from us into the darkness. When we could no longer see them, Reuben and I ran toward my apartment, never looking back.
Mm-hmm.
Afterward, we talked about what we saw for a long time, both confident that we had seen and talked to the Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Says, and so Lee says, if you ever go out to Cheeseman Park at night, know that you just might be questioned by a ghost in a hospital gown who continues to look for his killers. He said, I've dubbed this ghost Slackjaw.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, that is the story I was talking about. Never have I come across a story where an interaction with a spirit was so long with a conversation and was intelligent enough that it recognized what this guy was doing, smoking a cigarette, to ask him for one.
Well, and to take one.
To take one.
You know, like that. We talk about the energy it would take to move something, but you're already you already have to have a lot of energy, theoretically, to be seen that solidly.
Exactly.
Right? And then you're going to take an actual cigarette from somebody. And like you said, the length of that conversation, lift up the sleeve and show on the arm and all this stuff. That's wild.
Yeah. Now, I mean, if they, people post stories all the time.
Sure.
But to actually put your name in there, and he included, I didn't include it in this, but he actually included the name of the supermarket where he worked. So this, to me, this sounds legitimate. Whatever happened, this guy, he experienced something and had a friend with him.
Yeah, something happened.
Yeah, I mean, this wasn't just something they decided to make. It sure doesn't sound like that.
Right. It sounds incredible, but
exactly.
It's, I mean, like you said, the details that he gave about himself make it seem a little more believable.
Yeah. But he's not the only one. Rocky Mountain Paranormal Research Society has requested that people write into their website with stories of personal experiences while visiting Cheeseman Park. And one particular submission comes from a fellow named Jim, who describes a night that he and his cousin were walking through to get to his cousin's apartment. And Jim writes, "We were walking and heard a voice come at us from behind a tree or something saying, 'What are you doing here? Please leave me in thy peace.'" Said it was audible from about 2 feet away, and both stunned, we looked for the person and didn't see anyone. We heard the voice again asking us, "What are you doing here? Leave me in thy peace," and followed it to a big tree, but there was nobody there or even up in the tree. And it wasn't language from the 21st century. People don't really talk like that anymore. So it kind of freaked us out. And I made a joke saying, if it was some dead person, they're probably pissed that people are in his space. Sounds exactly like what's going on.
Yeah. Well, and then my question is, I would have to look it up, but when these people were buried,
Mm-hmm.
did they still use the saying like "leave me in thy peace"? Like I don't know. I thought that would be even older.
I don't know, but maybe. I mean, we're talking about the first people started being buried there in 1859.
Yeah,
There very well could have been people that still used kind of the older English.
maybe. Yeah.
I mean, even today, I mean, there are what is it, Dutch, Amish people that they still speak Dutch.
Yeah.
And it sounds really it's different. So if you've ever met, I mean, because they do business out in the regular community. I mean, it's not like they're completely enclosed. And they'll talk to you in regular English, but they'll speak to one another in that Dutch German dialect. And I know I sound stupid saying it, but I don't know exactly what it is. I mean, but I've heard it, and it's different. So I mean, I say all that to say there could have been people in that area at that time that still held on to some of the old English phrasing. Who knows? Now this one really got me, and I was reading this one, and I was kind of like, I'm glad that I was up and I was by myself when I was reading this, but I was sitting out in the kitchen. So I was I was sitting on my laptop reading this, and I was like, good Lord. This one comes from a security guard at the Botanic Gardens. Okay. And he wrote in, he said, I actually work right next to Cheeseman Park at Denver Botanic Gardens. I am a security officer there and have had almost 2 years of tenure. During that 2 years, I have worked day, swing, and graveyard shifts. I have experienced a multitude of things during that time. And then he lists them. He says, seeing mists of human figures, seeing discernible human figures, color of clothing, skin, and hair were clearly visible.
Oh, wow.
And I could not see through them, which is what usually happens when you see a ghost.
Yeah.
Hearing my name being whispered, hearing screaming in my ear, women screaming inside the building and out in the gardens, hearing doors slam, footsteps, hearing the crinkle of someone sitting on a leather couch and no one being there. Said my keys fell out of a door and landed several feet away from it. Said not to mention the countless times of overwhelming feelings of sadness, anger, and fear. And he says, in all these events, I was alone, but I have several witnesses to these events that follow. That was just the stuff he'd experienced when he's by himself.
Yeah, that's enough.
Yeah. So for these things, he says he had people with him. A chair rolled across the room. Something grabbed my friend's ankle and she literally jumped into my arms.
Yeah.
Something grabbed my friend's shoulder and tried to pull him into a boiler room.
Oh, geez.
An emergency phone from inside the elevator has rang on more than one occasion. Go back to that. The emergency phone. You know, those emergency phones are for calling out.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think they've got a phone number attached to them, where you could dial in.
Yeah. Which, I mean, they do, but nobody knows them.
Right. Yeah. It's not listed in the phone book.
No.
You can't look up the white pages and get the elevator emergency phone.
Yeah. Elevator emergency number. This is for elevator 15.
Because if you could, that would be
the
funniest thing ever.
Yeah. That's a prank waiting to happen.
What are you doing in my elevator?
Yeah, right. I see you. Get out of my elevator.
Would you push 6, please? But anyway, so back to this. It says something grabbed my friend's necklace, which had a moon crystal where the pendant would normally be. it looked at it for a second and then dropped it back on her chest. This reminded me of your shirt moving.
Yeah.
When you were, where you were at the Jefferson Hotel? Is that where it
Jefferson,
was?
yeah.
Yeah. It says, we have videotape of what appears to be a boy peeking out from behind a file cabinet in a secret staircase from the library to the master bedroom. It says, which have now both been converted to offices in the Waring House, which is an old mansion that was donated to the gardens. It says, we have pictures of orbs in some very haunted places in the main building. A white figment of a boy allowed us to touch him, put our hands through him, and it says our hands sort of changed color, and we could still feel something, but there was no temperature change. What?
That is wild.
That is crazy specific.
Yeah, and that is a boy. They said a boy, right? So it's like a kid. This is a kid that's bored, and he's like, "I've never had. You want to touch me? Yeah, you want to touch me? I feel weird. And everybody that has touched me said I feel weird. Feel it. Feel it.
That's some Sixth Sense stuff, you know,
dude. That's wild.
Yeah, and their hand changed color when it went through him.
Yeah, which I mean, you would think, it would, but I'm surprised that he said there was no temperature change.
I know, that's what you always hear.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it
get cold.
They're cold.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can tell by the way he wrote this that that's what he expected.
Yeah. And I've never touched a spirit or stuck my hand through a spirit. So who am I to say? And I mean, this guy apparently knows.
Yeah. He wraps it up with this. He says, that about sums it up as far as the paranormal activity that I've seen. God knows that's plenty.
Yeah, that's enough for a lifetime.
He said, but the other security officers, employees of this facility have given countless other stories of paranormal events. In addition to gardeners having found coffin handles, finger bones, and numerous other items while digging and planting.
Okay.
Holy cow.
Yep. Digging a rose bush and here comes a hand.
Now, if you think that you would like to visit Cheeseman Park, you absolutely can. And if you want to experience some of this paranormal activity, Magpie Paranormal offer 2-hour walking tours that are focused specifically on Cheeseman Park's haunted history. And they do this on weekends leading up to Halloween. And the Denver Botanic Gardens also has a Ghost in the Gardens tour that takes visitors around the grounds and inside some of the buildings that are known for being haunted. So, I mean, Adam, you're going to be up that way, you know. This, if they're doing tours, this would be a pretty cool little side trip if you could pull it off. I don't know that you can, but that would be cool.
If we're in that area, I might be able to. Ashley always helps me look for like ghost tours and stuff when we go on vacation. So if we're close enough, we might be able to do this.
I mean, this is just crazy. And like I said, there are some stories with this that I have never heard in all the research of all the haunted places that I have done over the last 7-8 years. I've never heard anything like this.
I know.
You know.
I know.
So, and again, there were tons, and for the length of the show, we could be talking for another hour for some of the stories that I was able to find. These were some of the coolest ones, but not only that, like you said, Lee Cook, who submitted that first story, tell his full name, where he worked, and to describe it with a friend and give the friend's name, it really adds some believability to what he experienced. And this other fellow being a security guard and sharing all these experiences, he's going to be there. He said he was there at all hours, working different shifts. He's experienced so much, but that his coworkers have as well.
Yep.
And, you begin to think, that it may deserve that moniker as one of the most haunted places in Colorado. I think it's maybe one of the most haunted places in the United States.
Yep. It certainly sounds like one of the more haunted places that we've talked about for sure.
Yeah. And so if you're listening and you live in the Denver area and you have a story from Cheeseman Park or the Botanical Gardens, let us know. We would love to hear it. Maybe you've gone on vacation and you've taken one of these tours or you've come across these stories. Let us know. And one of the best places to do that is in our Facebook group. We have people sharing personal experiences all the time. And we all love to hear these stories. Nobody's going to call you a nut or anything like that. We all just love hearing these personal ghost stories. And don't forget to go check out our website. It's graveyardpodcast.com. And there you can find links to purchase Graveyard Tales merchandise. You can get a coffee mug or a T-shirt with our Skull Mike logo on it. The noir horror poster that we had a listener do for us years ago. We've got stuff we can get that on there. It's really cool. You can also listen to the show, and that is where you can sign up to become a patron. And as Adam said at the beginning of the show, we have a huge catalog of bonus episodes. For our $10 folks, you get access to SideQuest, which is we are just having a blast doing this. It's a lot of fun. It's not anything like Graveyard Tales. So if you'd like to hear Adam and I do something other than talk about ghosts and mysteries and weird stuff, check it out. Plus, you'd be supporting the show, and Adam and I appreciate it so much. It really helps keep us going.
Yep.
So until next time, we'll save you a seat in the graveyard.
See you soon.